He wants you to succeed. Have faith of a mustard seed. Get up on your feet. Rise up.
Hello, welcome to the Drexel Seymour Show. Today I have a special guest. She's from the Turks and Caicos and has been away for a while, but she's back from time to time. She'll be back from time to time. And it's Dr. Donna Rigby. I will let her tell you who she is, a little bit about her background. And she has a behavioral health business, and I wanted to tell us too what inspired to start that business. So with that said, I want to welcome Dr. Rigby to the Drexel Seymour Show. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Seymour, for having me on the show.
Oh, thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, great. So now I have to talk a little bit about myself.
Yes.
Which I'm never comfortable doing that. But for the sake of the audience, I do have a background in behavioral health. And I initially went to university for business.
Mm-hmm.
I acquired a bachelor's degree in business, and that didn't work for me, of course. And then I went back and got another bachelor's in psychology and counseling. And that's when my career started to take shape. And after that second bachelor's, I went to Troy University and I got my master's degree in psychology and counseling. And that was basically to get a state license so that I could provide counseling services to students or adults to get my state license.
Mm-hmm.
After that, I started working in schools with children that were labeled as a special education student. They had some type of disability. So I did another degree, which is called a specialist.
Oh.
So I did the specialist, and where we focused on special education services to students in schools. So now I'm fusing psychology and counseling with education. And then after that, I went back and I got my doctorate degree, which worked out really well.
Mm-hmm.
After getting my doctorate degree, or during that process, because, working on your doctorate, you're kind of traveling back and forth. I remember I started that doctoral program in Florida, and then I moved to Georgia, where I had to now travel 9 hours every 6 weeks to go to the physical building to work on that degree or to finish it. And in total, I think I had about 7 years trying to get my doctoral degree completed. So needless to say, everyone in the community where I was doing that degree, they got to know me and my kids because I was constantly driving all this way. And sometimes I had to take a flight because it was quicker.
Yeah.
Just to, get to where I needed to be educationally. But it worked out. So eventually that led into having the degrees in the background. When I went to Nova Southeastern University for one of my degrees, which was the bachelor's in psychology and counseling, my professor, one of the professors said to me, when you're done working, when you're done with your degree, you probably want to go and work for a government agency because that's where you're going to get a lot of experience. So there I went to work for, and I took her advice, and I went to work for the Florida Department of Juvenile Justice as a counselor. So I was providing counseling services to students that were being arrested for crimes. So I was working with juvenile offenders. So that's where I started working with the underserved.
Got it.
And at the time, the Florida Department of Juvenile Justice, they had a specialized unit. And I was lucky to be recruited into that unit because we really did see, just like we really saw a difference. And we saw kids from all walks of life that was being arrested. Kids were getting arrested for all kinds of crimes. But we eventually, as you work with them, you realize that there's always something behind the crimes. And that's where I started working with the underserved. And my career literally kind of continued into that track. Eventually working at Florida Medical Center in the psychiatric unit. But basically, it was always mainly the underserved. So I worked in schools a lot. I worked in hospitals a lot, providing counseling services and providing various types of evaluations. And I always say I work with the underdog. So as years went on, I ended up going abroad and working with kids in different countries, doing the same thing and starting up programs like for schools that didn't have any type of program for special needs students. That became my specialty, just opening programs to help with schools that didn't have the service. So coming home to Turks, where I'm from, I noticed that there was a large underserved population here. But after starting the business in Georgia, naturally you start to think, how can you take some of this service to your home country?
Yeah.
So right now we work with kids. We do have some clients in Turks right now. And we do have clients in the US, and we do have clients in other parts of the world, because we try to focus on remote areas or areas that are underserved. But basically, that's how I got into it. I think if I had never worked for the Department of Juvenile Justice, I would have never got into the underserved population.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'm really keen on finding that.
Right.
If there's an underserved population, I'll find it.
That's good. And,
Yeah.
and we need that, actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm so glad that, even though you left Turks and Caicos a very long time ago, I'm so glad that you see the need to offer services to your country of birth.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, what different services will you be offering here in Turks and Caicos?
The type of services we're looking at right now is actually a wide range of services. For example, if you go into schools, you find a lot of kids that they're not being served, but they have some type of unique situation. It may be a child that has ADHD, or a child that has a speech impairment. And then there's so many various speech impairment, but we will be offering services to those students as well. We can do a full range of testing. For example, a psychoeducational evaluation.
Yeah.
If you did a psychoeducational evaluation, you're looking at the social, you're looking at the academic, and you're looking at the cognitive condition of the child. So that's a full workup.
Yeah.
And that will tell you if the child is weak in math and why. Is it a learning disorder? Does the child just have ADHD and have difficulty focusing? Does the child has a speech impairment? Now, and that's just one big assessment or evaluation that we can do. We do psychological evaluations for adults. We do screening for depressions. We provide therapeutic services for families as well as couples therapy. So it's a wide range of services that we would be providing for people here in the islands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I know a lot of times, there's a lot of stigma associated with different issues we face in our country. And sometimes parents are in denial, adults are in denial. And then there's no trust.
Right.
I mean, how do you plan to develop trust in the community?
That's like a good point you're hitting on right there. It's so important. There are a lot of cultures where we find that there is no trust when it comes to mental health. And it's also the stigma you mentioned. For some reason, many countries I've been to where providing counseling service or any type of therapeutic or mental health or behavioral health services, because they're used interchangeably. But there are many places you go to where there's a stigma attached to having a mental health issues. Now, how we're going to attack that is basically providing education. For me coming in, I want to come in with humility. And that means I have to come in listening to the clients. I have to come in listening to the parents, but not in a judgmental form. We are solution focused.
Right.
And that's something that we push all the time, because if you're meeting with a parent whose child has a speech impairment, you can barely understand what the child is saying. You want to have an educational approach to that, because you want to educate the parent. You want to have a listening ear for the mom or the dad or both parents, and let them know you're there. We're not here to point fingers. We're here to find a solution. And more importantly, you want them to know that you are providing the services for them with the utmost privacy. So I think when you start with education, for example, if we're doing workshops, that's one of the things we can do, not just educating that particular parent, but we can provide workshops in the community so that the topics or the mental health conversation is spoken about more.
Yeah.
The more you speak about mental health, the more people becomes comfortable with it. And when they become comfortable with it, then you'll find that stigma goes away and people start to trust. Another thing is being visible in the community. The more visible we become, the more people will know, well, they're here to stay. And word will get around that you know what? I took my child there and my child really got help. I took my child there and they didn't judge me. You know, we're not here to judge. We're not here to point fingers.
Yeah.
We're here to help.
Yeah.
And you can't help if you're judging and pointing fingers.
I think that's a very important point, you know, because sometimes we just have preconceived notions before we even let's understand what people are going through first.
Exactly.
You know, focus on the people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sometimes we focus much on the problem. Let's focus on the individuals.
Yep.
We may end up understanding the root cause of
exactly. And that's providing that community-centered approach.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
When you're community-centered, you're all about the community. You're not here to talk about what this one came in for, what that one came in for. We don't tolerate that at all. We're here to hear what the situation is and how we can help that.
Yeah.
And in our office, one of our speech pathologists, for example, she has 30 plus years of experience. She's a clinical speech pathologist. She's not from here. She's from the United States, but she is now working with students from here, right here in Provo, but nobody knows that.
Yeah.
And that's what we mean when we say privacy.
Yeah.
You know,
I think that's very good.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So right now, everyone that we have employed is working overseas.
Mm-hmm.
So working with the population here, for the next several years, you'll be getting like a speech pathologist from another country, most likely the US.
Mm-hmm.
You'll get your clinical psychologist from the US. And we'll be coming and going.
Yeah.
So I think people will become really comfortable and they'll see that it can be worked out.
Especially when they see a change is taking place.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, because sometimes you write people off.
Yeah. Sometimes you do. And that's the part about building that trust and being visible.
Yeah.
You can't just come one time. So for us, we will be coming and going and see, you know, how that works out. For the clients we have here right now, they reach out to us on WhatsApp, and we are going to be starting to use Signal because I'm a Signal fan. I've been telling my family for like the last 5 years, we got to switch to Signal, you know. And until Signal was in the news a lot lately, they're like, oh, that's what you were talking about. I'm like, yes. I'm a researcher. I'm always researching things, always.
I use it, but not often.
Yeah. But it's really good when you start to use it. Not advocating for them in any way, but and they don't record anything. Yeah. So everything that you do with them, if you really look at the fine print, they're not recording it.
Right.
Yeah.
So what of course, you know, this is new coming to Turks, launching this business. You know, you already have some clients. Congrats on that. What other challenges do you think you will face, you know, with establishing something of this nature?
Well, for me, I think the challenge would be forming partnerships, which is one of the things that we'd like to do. Because when you start new in a community, it's difficult to form partnership with community organizations, the government. For example, right now we have a couple of schools in China that we work with, but those are private schools. We form partnerships with them. Coming here, we'd like to do the same thing. And so we'll have to see how that works out here. But we're willing to do the same thing, form partnerships to work with churches in the community, to work with the government here, and to work with individuals, and, you know, do whatever we can. But that, I think, is going to be one of the more difficult things, because when you get to smaller community, it more becomes who you know, as opposed to all the knowledge you're bringing with you. Okay.
Yeah. So I guess, I mean, but then there's a big need for the services that you have.
Yeah.
And so I think if you could get the government and get the private sector on board.
Yeah.
And see, and the parents, of course, the community involved, I think it'll be a big difference, because many people are spending a lot of money going abroad to get help for their children and themselves. Right. Not only going abroad, people have left Turks and Caicos physically because the services are not here.
Yeah.
So I think you'll get I think once you establish yourself, then you get out, the name get out there. I think you're going to get the support.
I'm really hoping that we do get the support, because in bringing the services here, it's genuinely because we really do want to help.
Yeah.
And the clients that we have right now, they didn't come from the government, or they didn't come from the churches or community organizations. Those were just clients from word of mouth, where parents heard about us. I think the first client we got here 2 years ago, we did a psychoeducational evaluation, and that was a full workup. this child was already 9, and that evaluation should have been done when that child was 5.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I mean when I say, if we were to partner with the government, for examples, and got into the schools and provide these evaluations, the same as we do in the US, you would see a big difference in the way the kids learn.
Because you could detect things early.
Absolutely. Because the thing is, something as simple as providing training for teachers. We could provide training for teachers if we were to, either in the private sector where the private schools would say, well, come in and do the training, or if the government was to decide, well, we'd like to partner with you, we're open to that, because then we can now partner with the government and work with the schools, go into the schools and provide the necessary training. Something as simple as them knowing how to detect a child with possible ADHD symptoms. Because think of a child that has ADHD that's in the classroom, that everyone is just thinking this child is disruptive.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that can be helped. There's a lot of ways to help that child.
Mm-hmm.
But if the teacher is not trained, then the teacher doesn't know how to work with that child.
Yeah.
There's accommodations, there are modifications that can be done. There's a lot of little techniques that can be used in the classroom, the way the classroom is structured.
Yeah.
Not only that, something like as simple as differentiated instruction in the classroom. You can train a teacher to model that so it will accommodate the students in the classroom that are has some type of special needs. And some schools, I'm sure, based on what I saw a few days ago, I think we visited a school, and I was told they had something like 700 kids there. The need is there. And so when I talk about forming partnerships, I think it's really important, because you're meeting the needs of the people.
Yeah.
You're meeting the needs of students.
Help the society in the end.
And it's there. So we can't say now that, we have no means of doing it, because I'm from here and I'm willing to bring people here that can actually provide the service. And not just anyone. I will be bringing literally true experts, true professionals that enjoy what they do, because we do have a vetting system that we put every employee through. We have to check to make sure that they're state licensed. We have to check to make sure that they don't have a criminal background. So by the time that take the clinical pathologist comes to your child, that person's been vetted already.
Okay. That's good. Well, what I recommend you do then, while you're here, is to reach out to the Ministry of Education.
Okay.
Reach out to the Ministry of Social Services. Mm-hmm. Let them know the services you have, and so we could get the ball rolling, because it's really needed. I mean, there are too many people falling by the wayside.
Yeah.
Being rejected by society.
Right. Exactly.
Simply because they didn't have the help.
Right.
But if they could get the help early.
Yeah. And the help is there.
The help is there. Significant difference.
Yeah.
In their lives.
We one time had a student that had an issue. I remember going into a new school overseas, and there was a student there that had selective mutism. And the teachers weren't trained. So they came to me as the counselor that was brought on to put a counseling department in place and train teachers. And I remember them telling me, well, we have this student that the student is rude. They don't have any eye contact. They don't look at us when we're talking to him. He looks down, and he doesn't like to play with anyone in the classroom. All I'm hearing is symptoms.
Yeah.
And then I said, well, let me come to the class and observe the students.
Right.
And I went to the class, and right away I knew what I was looking at, And I said, let me just observe him for a couple of weeks. Yeah. I didn't need a couple of weeks, but I just like to be thorough. And as it turned out, he did have selective mutism. Something like that came across to teachers that weren't trained, as a child being disobedient, a child being rude, no eye contacts. But what about the fact that he cries? What about the fact that he's shaking? What about the fact that, there's all this anxiety? But they didn't know anxiety when they were looking at it, because sometimes you can't see anxiety, and upon like a thorough testing, literally within a week, I was able to, have the child diagnosed, and then found some service for him, because I think I was in Shanghai at the time. But they just didn't have the services there. And I was literally just being brought in to provide those kinds of services. So that's just an example to give you that if the teachers aren't trained, then they can't provide proper service to your students. It's not that they don't want to.
Yeah.
They're not equipped.
They don't. Yeah, they don't.
They want it.
Right.
They're open, because I went to another school, the second school I went to this week. A teacher literally said to me, like, we just don't have the training, but we need the services. And I said, we're here to help.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm quite sure we'll use your services.
I hope so.
And you can also go into the private schools, a lot of private schools.
Yeah, we plan to do that this week.
Yeah, and then some of these private schools don't have counselors. I think most of the public schools, the government have a full-time counselor. But a lot of the private schools do not, as far as I know. And so that could be a service that you could provide.
It could.
You know,
it could.
You know.
Because our staff is equipped not just with the psychological counselors. I myself have state certification for school counseling.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had to do a lot.
Yeah.
So
do you speak the Chinese language?
No, I don't, but both of my children do fluently.
Oh, okay.
They speak it, read it, and write it.
So how did you was able to work in China?
In my contract, every contract I had in China, I always had an interpreter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I always had someone on call, and there was always, and I always had like 2 secretaries.
Oh, okay.
Because where I worked, it was always international schools.
Got it.
And usually if I'm going in, and they would have that in your contract, that you would have one that spoke Korean and one that spoke maybe Mandarin. But when you go to places like China, you'll find out that your secretary have like 7 languages, 5 languages easy. So, but guess what? I speak the world's #1 language.
Hey.
English.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So as you establish this business in Turks, what is success like to you, say 3 to 5 years from now? How do you measure success for your business?
I would measure success by seeing the stigma of mental health being gone.
That's good.
Yeah, I would literally measure that by seeing people feeling comfortable in coming in and asking for services, and people feeling like it's okay and they don't have to be ashamed. And maybe the level of education that we're trying to get out there, we can see that people are using what they're getting from what we're sharing with them. To me, that would be like...
I think that's a good measurement. That's a good...
Yeah.
That's a good success measurement.
Think about that. Think about, you come to Provo and people can say, well, you know, my kid has ADHD, but guess what?
You're not afraid to talk about it.
They're not afraid to talk about it. They don't feel like they're going to be ridiculed.
Yeah.
They don't feel like their child is going to be judged.
Yeah.
And if I can be a part of helping that come to pass, to me, that's success.
That is success.
It's all about the people,
Absolutely.
you know?
Now, of course, there's a fee involved in providing the services. You have to pay your staff and all that. But how will you make sure that is affordable and accessible to the average Joe?
Right. One of the things we're going to be focusing on is trying to institute. Well, right now we have a sliding ski scale for people that maybe are at a certain income level. People that can afford it will afford it. But if it's a matter of price, then we're definitely going to do the same thing we do in the U.S., which is we go by income. Yeah. And then another thing is too, we do have a couple of clients from here that are using insurance from here. So there are people here that don't realize that their insurance will help pay for the services that we provide. Yeah. So what I would say to people out there is really check with your insurance, because as we started working with people from Turks and Caicos, we found out that some of the insurance companies from right here in Provo were actually covering, like for a psychoeducational evaluation or speech therapy or, other counseling services. And we've had insurance companies call us. I remember when we first started and was getting clients from here, we had like the corporate office for insurance companies here, like call us to see if we were legitimate. They needed our tax ID and they need all that. So, but we're ready for all that.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, as we wrap up this interview, this conversation, share with the viewers, overall your journey.
Well, I guess my journey started right here. So right here in Turks and Caicos, and I feel like I'm coming full circle right now.
Absolutely.
Started here. My parents are from here, and when we left in the 70s, things weren't so readily available, and my mom moved overseas to New York, which is where I did high school there. and then later went to college there, and then went to college in Florida, which is where I got my doctorate and got a lot of practice in behavioral health. And then from there, I end up overseas, just working in communities, doing the exact same thing. Because again, I was working in private schools or private institutions that just didn't have the service, and they wanted it. I think it was 2008 when Dubai was hiring like a lot of teachers to come over at that time. And I remember a lot about that. Then in China, doing the same thing.
So you went to Dubai?
Yeah, yeah. And then going to China to provide the same type of services. So started here, moved to the US. And to be honest with you, by the time I got my doctorate degree, I was kind of bored. So that prompted like moving overseas and kind of getting into the same field. But after a while, I came back to the US and I wanted to move back home. And I started thinking about, okay, what can I do there? But the time isn't right for me to be here right now, but I can still provide the services. So it's coming full circle because all those steps I took just to come right back where I started.
Yeah.
And guess what? When you look at the schools, the services are actually needed. So I'm only coming back to where I left, where I got all of my personal values, because, you know, between the ages of birth and 5 is where that's instilled.
Of course.
And now I'm coming right back to my home country where I'm happy to do that and provide services that would help the community. Yeah. And I feel great about that. And that's me coming full circle. Yeah. You know, with all the experiences that I got, all those stops along the way, I was gaining experiences that I can use now and help my own country. Yeah. Which I feel great about.
Yeah, we're happy to have you here.
That's wonderful. I appreciate you saying that.
Oh, I do. Yeah. Okay, people watching this interview, they might want to contact you. How do they reach you? How do they reach us?
Okay, so if they go to glocosupportservices.org, even go to Facebook, you'll find a glocosupportservices.org because I don't remember the phone number. GLOCO. Okay. supportservices.org. They can go there and they'll find, we have a Facebook page, but you'll find a website that's chock full of, the blog has a lot of information about autism, a lot of information about speech, a lot of information about psychoeducation, all types of things, various assessments. So whatever they want, they'll find on the blog. But if you go to the contact page at glocosupportservices.org, you'll find that there's a drop-down menu there where you can reach out to us. You can also scan the QR code and that'll get you right to the website or different parts of the website, or you can reach out to us on WhatsApp as well. So when you go to the website, you can use the WhatsApp number, so it really doesn't cost anything. And the reason why we have the WhatsApp is because we have clients from outside of the US, different countries, and it does help. All right. Yeah, it's easy to reach us.
Very good. Well, I just want to thank you again for being a guest on the
Thank you.
Yes, and for sharing your services. I'm telling you, I'm looking forward to the next 3 to 5 years to see the impact.
Me too.
And the difference that will take place here in Turks and Caicos. And I'm so proud of you, one of us.
Thank you. I'm proud to be one of us.
Yes, you're coming back home. To help us.
Yes.
You know, to make a difference. In behavioral services. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me today.
Oh, it was a pleasure.
Okay. Great. I'm happy to be here.